YouTube, welcome back to the channel. So today we're doing a Fallout 76 camp build. This is a series that I intend to keep going as long as you guys enjoy it. I've been wanting to do this for quite a while now. We've been playing this game for about 2 months, and this has turned out to be one of my favorite, if not my favorite aspect of the game. And the more people that come to my builds, the more compliments I seem to get. And that feels really good. It gives some motivation, you know, it shows that I'm doing something right and people are liking what I'm doing. You know, I'm not sure if this is like a big thing for a lot of people or not, but this is just something I enjoy doing. And I figure I will bring you into this world and maybe give you some inspiration, some ideas, and make your camp a little bit better too. So the reason we've named this build Scorched is simply because down in the bottom right is where we're located in the map. Down at Fissure Site Prime, if you know, you know. If you don't know, you will come to know this place pretty well. As dangerous as this place is, I've only been hit twice, and one time I was able to move it before everything went down, and then another time I was not even paying attention and it just straight up got hit. For the most part, the danger zone is usually underneath this Fissure Site Prime icon, so you're typically going to be okay, and this is so close that you can pretty much pick up everything that's left on the ground, and even if you're over encumbered, you're so close that you can just come to the house. Also being covered in this build that I'll just go ahead and talk about right now is overlapping walls, and I'm not sure if there's a technical term for this or not, but it's essentially taking two walls and putting them on the same exact space. Typically you can only put one wall. As you can see behind me, we have the contemporary walls as the main base wall of this house, but we also have another wall on the outside of it, which is the mindset, a variant of the mindset that gives that more boarded up look, that more rustic, you know, recovered house type of vibe. And I'll do this on a lot of my builds, so you'll see this quite a bit, not all of them, but a lot of them, just to give that more like somebody found this house, it was in decent enough shape to move into, but there were still some gaps to fill up, and I really like that look and that texture. So if you enjoyed this video, especially if you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe down below. I'll be doing these videos pretty often. This is something I really enjoy doing, and if you guys like it, I like it, and it looks like it's a win-win. Let's go over some of the specs of this build, and then we'll do a full run through of the house. Appreciate the love, guys. Take care. I'll catch you in the next one. Alright, let's go over some of the specs of this build. The foundation layout is going to be 2x3x1 with a 1x3 garden on the left side of the house. And as I mentioned before, we are going to have overlapping walls with the mindset on the outside. Now, obviously this is a pre-recorded video and I'm just kind of talking over it as we both watch through this thing. And one mistake that I made was starting out with the regular default wooden walls that you get when you very first start the game. These cannot be overlapped as is right now. However, what you can do is you can either start with a different set entirely, which I recommend literally any other set. Even the mindset will overlap on itself. But if you want to use these default wooden walls with an overlap over them, what you can do is just edit them. So in this case, we're using the contemporary set. We're editing into that, snapping the mindset into it, and then we can edit it back to the regular wooden walls. And one of the benefits of doing that is the default walls have like a horizontal wood grain to them, whereas the mindset, they're typically vertical, so you have two different textures kind of clashing, and it really gives a nice look. And how you want to do this is you want to have a foundation on either side of the wall, either side of the doorway, and this will give you the ability to snap the mindset into another wall set. Once you're done, you can edit these doorways away. You can make them windows, you can make them regular walls, whatever the case is, but you do have to have two doorways snapped between two foundations. And one of the coolest things about this is once you're done and you've put the two walls on, you can delete all the foundations around it, and then you can go and edit the walls on the inside and the outside. And you can change these, you can change stuff to metal, to wood. You can say, oh, you know what, I'm going to try something a little different, a little unique, and you can kind of experiment with this. So the roof for this build is not going to be too sophisticated at all. Really the only thing I thought about while making this was where I was going to put those chimneys, because that's where either my armor station was going to be or my chem station. So the garden, the 1x3 garden on the left, is actually going to be part of the Nuka World set, which was part of the last season. And when I first got this set, I actually didn't like it. I didn't think I'd ever use it. But over the last 3 builds that I've done, I've used it in every single one. One thing about it though is it will not snap to foundations, but they will snap to each other. And that's pretty cool. It keeps things level. It takes a lot of the headache away. Really the only thing you have to do is just make sure everything is lined up. Kind of eyeball it like I'm doing here, and then line everything up. And the last part of this build is going to be on the other side. This is where I mentioned the 2x3x1. I really didn't know how to describe this, but this is where the power armor station is going to be. And it's just a 1x little section. You can think of it as like a shed or something like that, where maybe before this is where the lawnmower and the rakes and stuff were kept. The only issue I had with this was the roofs were not cooperating. They were kind of clashing with each other. So one way you can bypass a lot of things that happen like this is just to edit the thing that's in the way. Instead of deleting it, just edit it into a flat piece or a slanted piece. The thing that was getting in the way here were the spikes, and then I was able to put the roof on the top of this power armor station and then edit the roof back the way it was. And it looks like this thing is ready to be decorated. I love the way this thing looks. It is a foggy morning way down next to Mama Scorched. But this thing has turned out to be one of my favorite builds I've probably ever done. A lot of stuff just generally around the area, especially these junk walls, which just dropped in the store this past week. And it's funny, I actually was trying to get these junk walls from talking to some of the devs, and they have like this process where you can request items that maybe you've missed, and it's only a few that you can actually ask for. It's not like you can go back and get previous season rewards, but literally as I was like getting that process to go, they dropped into the store. And so I guess I'm just lucky enough and fortunate enough for that to have happened. One of my favorite things to do lately is merging, and I'm not one of these guys that's going to be merging basements into the underground and all that stuff, but just little things like this with the plant growing out of the toilet, it just kind of gives that vibe of it's kind of been here for a while. And one thing that I really like about this, and once I turn around I'll show you these fences, was using some of the junk walls and just overall scrap to kind of finish off some of those broken fences. And here's the power station. I've actually turned it into brick, which made more sense to me. And this is like we talked about, just maybe like an old shed that we've converted into simply a power armor station. And we have one of these fusion core chargers, which is it's really cool to have, but you wind up with a lot of fusion cores. But that's all right, because people will buy those, and it's a good little passive way to get some caps, And going back through here, we have the arm wrestling machine just kind of out here. I usually try and keep these things fairly organized, fairly close together to where you can kind of just run through and do them all at once before you head out somewhere. But for the look of this and considering how big this one is in comparison to some of the others. This seemed to be like a nice little spot for this. Now, as I mentioned, here's part of the fence right here, but you can see that it ends actually right where that arm wrestling machine is, and we used all that other junk to kind of cover it up and finish it off until we hit the junkyard walls back there.
Loose screws. I am still looking for those screws.
And here's the other side of the fence where you can see that, yeah, parts of it are still here, but it's mainly broken down, and some of the old posts, and then there's a couple of other small pieces down that way that we won't go to. But you know, just kind of putting those pieces in and then taking big chunks of it out and inputting different other pieces of scrap and junk in there, it just kind of makes it feel lived in, feel reinforced in a way. Here we got the cigarette machine behind the junk, and on the porch is where the vending machine is, and this lovely Friendship Nuka-Cola fridge. I'm really glad that they introduced something like this because I was tired of putting Nuka-Colas in the display cases, and this is far better. And this owl was actually part of Fallout First items that we got 2 weeks ago, I think. A really cool little stand there. You know, the bird is, you know, it doesn't do too much. It just kind of flaps in circles there, but it's always asking to get out because apparently I don't feed it enough. Coming over to the garden side of this build, we have the fortune teller machine. Always good to get loaded down with some Wizard Fortune number 42 times 6. And we've put in, this slot machine doesn't have any power, but that's okay. I always kind of put it near some of the rocks or the garden section because it does have all this wood and this rock behind it, and I try and, you know, merge that into something a little bit more nature-like. But we have the Nuka-Cola wagon from last season. My fiance actually had this idea of putting that wagon into the garden, and ever since I'm like, you know what, that is a perfect place to put the wagon, is in the garden. It just makes sense, it looks really good, and that's about the only place that I can think of that it would go. We have some of these planters, a lot of veggies and fruits, and a couple of boards because, you know, these people that like to run through your garden and just pick everything no matter what, I like to put these little spikes on the ground just to give them a flat tire and hear them freak out and see them freak out and use their infinite jump ability to try and get out of this caged in little spiked area. Don't take my veggies, man. You know, go grow your own. And this rainwater collector, a really good addition to the garden too. I really like the vibe that it gives. It just looks like it belongs in a situation like this, and really happy with that item. And I'm not too big on the whole veggies and fruits thing. You know, I really do it as an aesthetic more so than anything. I don't really eat too much of the veggies and fruits, and it's not because I'm like, oh, I'm not. It's just a lot of the stuff that's good that comes from that stuff. You got to have sugar and salt and pepper and spices, and it's like, man, this is too much. Just give me some Deathclaw meat, you know. Going on into the inside here. This is where the entire workstation is. And one of the first things you probably notice is the bed is actually on some stash boxes. And I've been doing this for a while. This is one of the first things I kind of started doing to kind of differentiate from using some of the beds, because a lot of the beds are real clean looking. And the mattresses are just too big. They take up too much space. So using stash boxes, even the big ones like this one back here, you can stack those together and get some really creative looking beds, especially something makeshift like this. In the chem station, we have the chalkboards. You know, we're kind of putting together the formula, the Krabby Patty formula, so to speak. And one day we will figure that thing out, and Mr. Krabs is going to go bankrupt. But for now, we got a lot of work ahead of us, and a whole world that's destroyed too. So nothing too special over there. We do have Nuka Shine in this bowl because people that love to just, you know, they get sticky fingers, they run around your place, they start touching and taking everything, opening doors, not closing them. Go ahead and take you a big sip of that, big boy, and wake up in Wonderland. people seem to love this dartboard for some reason. I didn't think it was too popular, but almost every time somebody comes through, they at least look at it, and a lot of times people will play it. You don't get anything from it though. You don't get like bonus charisma or perception or anything from that. You're simply just playing darts. And there's last season's Nuka World scoreboard. And just the weapons bench, the armor bench. As you can see, like I mentioned with the roof before, the fan I've kept next to the armor station just because it makes sense. You know, you got all this smoke, and then we have the window right here. And we'll just kind of pretend that that fan is actually doing the more suction motion than the blowing motion, and it's kind of helping suck all that smoke outside. And the chimneys that we put on the roof are up there. You can't see them from the inside, but that's where they are, and we'll just make believe that they actually work and keep the radiation out of this house. And behind this door, nothing special, just a couple stacked tables and a fish that we got out of the atomic shop. They were really, really cheap, and I figured, you know what, one day I might have some use for them. I don't think that's a particularly great place to have it, but you know, who cares? This is my house, not yours. You know, go find your own. Anyway, yeah, right here we have a lot of merging on this stand. I've really liked to do this with the vendor section because, you know, you can fit a lot of these toys down here, and it just gives the impression that, like, you know, this is what you came for. And you'll see in some of my other builds too, I've expanded on this idea, and I won't spoil anything here, so you can check out the next video, but you'll start to see them, some of the more recent builds that I've done, really creative and with a shop kind of mind, with a business kind of mind, so to speak. And that about does it for this video. This is the Scorched camp all the way down in Cranberry Bog. It is a frosty morning this morning, but I'm real proud of this build. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'd love to see a link to an Imgur or something like that if you choose to build something like this, and just let me see your ideas, your rendition of it. And until next time, peace.